The first thing that we're going to see is that we have a test score. The mean is 85 for period 1. So I'm going to mark that down. Mean for period 1 is 85, with a standard deviation for period 1 is 3.5. And the mean for period 2 is 80. And standard deviation of period 2 is 2.1. And their points. Remember, the mean and the standard deviation do have units. So make sure that you have those labeled for your test. Okay, the first one says, what would be the new mean and standard deviation if Miss Brown decided to add 5 points to everybody's score? Okay, remember, if the data is, let's say the data is all spread out here, and let's say the mean is right around there, right? And let's say it goes from, I don't know, 65 to, let's say, 100. Now, if I add 5 points to everyone's score, this now becomes 70, and this now becomes 105, and you can see the only thing that's doing is that the data is shifting, but the standard deviation is not changing at all, because the standard deviation is just the average distance that everything is from the mean. So I have this one here would just be the mean of period 1 plus 5 would be literally 85 plus 5, 90. The standard deviation of period 1's plus 5 is just going to stay the same, because the distance does not, which would be 3.5 points, the distance does not change. So same thing for here, for period 2. The mean for period 2 plus 5 would be 80, I think was the original, yeah, 80 plus 5 to be 85 points. The standard deviation of period 2 plus 5 is going to be just the same, 2.1 points, because the distance doesn't change when I just shift it. Okay, the next one, this says now I'm going to multiply it by 1.2. So now multiplying, now if I have the data here, as you see, now it's going to multiply out, so it's literally going to spread out a little further. So instead of 65, it's going to be 65. Actually, it would get bigger, obviously, but it's going to be start here and spread out a little further, right? So it's going to spread out 1.2 times. So I'm going to say this one here to multiply is going to be, the mean is now going to be period 1 times 1.2. So 1.2 times 85, and that's going to get me 85 times 1.2. The new mean is going to be 102. And the standard deviation is also going to spread out. So that's going to be the standard deviation of 1.2 times period 1. And that's going to be 1.2 times 3.5. So that's 1.2 times 3.5. And that's going to be 4.2 points. Make sure we put points. All these are points. For the next one, it's going to be, the mean is going to be a period 2 times 1.2. And that's 1.2 times 80. 1.2 times 80, and that's going to be 96 points. And this is a standard deviation of period 2 times 1.2, and that's going to be 2.1 times 1.2, and that's going to be 1.2 times 2.1, and that's going to be 2.52. Okay, the next one says, okay, let's add 5 and multiply by 1.2. So if you notice on the mean, I added and I multiplied, so that's exactly what's going to happen, is I'm going to get 85, and I'm going to add 5 points, because I'm going to, and then I'm going to multiply by 1.2. So the first thing I'm going to do, because it says, okay, let's add first, so I have 85 plus 5, and then I'm going to multiply by 1.2, because that's what it did, that's the order it told me to do it in. So then times 1.2. So 85 plus 5, and then times 1.2, and that gets 108. Or actually, I apologize, let's do that in reverse. If I said it in that way, that's true. If I wanted to do in that order, this probably would look like this, though. If I said 1.2 times period 1 plus 5, then this part obviously would come first, and 1.2 would multiply by 85, and then I'd add 5 at the end. So that's going to be a little bit different. So 1.2, of course, times 85, which we got 102 right here, and then add is going to be 107. For this one, we noticed with the adding the constant, it didn't change at all, just multiplying did. So here is going to be just 1.2 times 3.5, and that's going to be 4.2 points. Noticing with standard deviation that adding it just shifted it, but multiplying it did change it indeed, so that's why it's going to be 4.2. For this one here, we're going to do, again, 80 times 1.2 plus 5, and so that's going to get us 96 points here, what we got, plus 5 is going to be 101 points. And this last one is going to be, just right here, 2.52 points, because you can see that the adding didn't change it, but the multiplying did. Okay, and the last part wants you to add two random variables together, and it wants you to add it to find the mean and the standard deviation. So the mean, we're going to get simple, you're just 85. I can't see that real well. There we go, 85 plus 80, and that's going to be 165 points. The standard deviation, you cannot add two standard deviations, remember, but you can add their variances. So if I add their variances, the variance, remember the variance is just standard deviation squared. And so the standard deviation is going to be 3.5. So 3.5 squared is the first one. And the second one is 2.1 squared. So you can add those, and so that's my variance. But remember, I want standard deviation, so I got to find the square root of that in the end. So I would just go 3.5 squared plus 2.1 squared, and that's 16.66. And the square root of 16.66 is going to get you about 4.08 points. Okay, scenario 2, let's look here. We got two laptops, and we got laptop 1 and we got laptop 2. Or excuse me, this one here, you have 3 laptops, and you are going to buy 3 laptops, and the average is going to be just 950 plus 950 plus 950. And so, of course, 950 plus 950 plus 950 is 2850. Multiply is just going to be 3 times 950, which you're going to get the same thing. So you can see with the mean, it doesn't matter if you add them or you multiply them, but this one here is 3 separate laptops. Scenario A is 3 separate laptops. Scenario B is 1 laptop that has been multiplied by 3. The difference is the standard deviation. That's why I'm having you do this exercise. For this one here, I'm going to add these together. But can I add standard deviations? No, but I can add the variances. So the variance is going to be 150 squared plus 150 squared plus 150 squared. So that's square root of that. And so you say, okay, that's going to be square root of 150 squared, and that's going to be 259.81 cents. Okay? Versus this one here is multiplying it by 3. So multiplying it by 3 is, I'm going to multiply by 3. So I say 3 times 150, and that's it. And that's $450. That's the difference. You just multiply it straight out. Adding, you need to add them separate. This is 3 separate ones, and this is 1 that has been multiplied. One set of data that has been multiplied. This is just adding 3 separate pieces of data together. All right, I hope that helps.